Happy Monday, everyone. It is Monday, August 25th. Hard to believe, guys. We are almost at the end of summer. Hope we all are enjoying the end of the nice weather. I'll tell you what, in Chicago right now, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. I love this weather. It's like the pre-fall transition where it's not super hot. I can get away with shorts, can get away with jeans. Freaking awesome, man. And it's almost football season. I don't know if you guys are into football or not, but this week and next week are fantasy draft season. It's a great time of year. What's up, 619? How you doing, man? Guys, what do you say? Summer this weekend, 108 degrees Fahrenheit deploying in Arizona. Woo! Wow. Man, that is commitment. I don't know if y'all are seeing some of the earnings for some of these Helium deployments, though. It's worth it. It's worth it. If you're in a high traffic area that's getting a lot of usage, 108 degrees, though, that's freaking nuts, man. That is nuts. I've been to Arizona on golfing trips before. You generally want to avoid the summer, but at the same time, the tee times are like a fraction of the cost. You can get a tee time on a really good course for around $100 in June, July, August. You try to go in January, February, you're paying like $400. So if you can bear the heat, like 619 out there, how about that? You've got he's doing Wingbits and Geodnet. Hell yeah. You know what, man? I am super excited about Wingbits. They're gonna have their token launch soon. Geodnet's been making moves too. I'm gonna talk about the Seeker phone a little bit. What they're doing. We got Chad on the road deploying. Everyone's deploying. All right. We got Tyler in the house. Oh man. Well, we got some good stuff to cover today. It's gonna be a lot on the crypto side where we're seeing the money rotate to. We've talked a lot about it the last couple of weeks. We're also going to talk about some DePIN stuff and the Mindshare that DePIN has been gaining, guys. I think good times are coming. Obviously, we had a little bit of a sell-off yesterday. We'll talk about that as well. But I just want to remind everyone on these live streams, because I come on here most days, I have been going back through after the fact and adding chapters. So, if anyone, here, I'll show you here. So if anyone, doesn't care so much about the macro stuff, you can skip down to the DePIN update there. So generally the way I structure these now, I start off with more broad news and more global news, maybe a fun news story as people trickle in. And then I get into the broader macro stuff, and then I get into the broader crypto trends. And where the investments are that I'm looking at, and then, finish up with DePIN. So, if you want to come in after the fact, you can skip to whatever part interests you the most. Because I know that some people don't care about all of it, but it's important to cover it all because, guys, it's all interconnected. We've seen time and time again this whole year how the macro events, like for Friday, for example, we talked about Jackson Hole for weeks. We had that marked on the calendar. And what happened? We saw massive rallies in the markets, right? So all of these events really do matter. And then looking, the broader scope of things, what we're seeing with Ethereum, we've been calling that for months, man. And we've seen the rotation happen. We've seen the Ethereum Treasury plays pan out. And now we're looking at the next rotation. And I think we can get ahead of it. And I've been adding to the dips. And Tyler said, I appreciate your macro. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. I don't know if those were emojis that didn't come through or what happened there. Anyway, all that said, let's kick things off. Oh, by the way, I saw a quote earlier I thought was great. It said, there's no elevator to success, so take the stairs. Hey, guys, we've been climbing the stairs all damn year while everyone else has got disenfranchised and everyone said that crypto is a scam and, nothing matters except for Bitcoin. I agree. Bitcoin is the most important asset, one of the most important assets of our lifetime. But that said, guys, we have been grinding. We've been looking at where the opportunities are. We've been placing our bets. We know where the money rotation has been taking place. There's a lot of opportunity there. You just got to be willing to look for it. All that said, let's kick off with a fun story, and then we'll get into some global news. You guys might have seen this. The first human case of flesh-eating bacteria screwworm parasite detected in the U.S. It's a larva of a New World screwworm fly. It does say it can devastate herds cattle herds and is rife in parts of Central America. So this is the first human case that's been detected in the U.S. Did go on to say that the resident has recovered from the infection, and the investigation confirmed there is no indication of transmission to any other individuals or animals. So the risk to the public health in the U.S. is very low, but says that it can devastate cattle herds and is rife in parts of Central America and Mexico. Can also destroy wildlife and even kill household pets. Said that their plan to combat this, I thought, was kind of crazy. They breed billions of sterile flies and dump them from the air over southern Texas and Mexico in hopes of stopping the spread. Says that sterilized male flies mate with females, but the eggs don't hatch. Eventually, the population reduces and dies out. So this worked in the 1960s when we had our last outbreak. But it did say, this is wild, that this could, an outbreak, it could cost Texas $1.8 billion due to livestock deaths. Wow. So that's a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal. What do you say? There's an escalator. Oh, is there an escalator to success? I suppose there could be. Take the stairs, bro. Take the stairs. And this, going over to some macro stuff now. Let's talk about some real macro stuff. Quiet cracking is spreading in offices. Half of workers are at a breaking point right now. I don't know how you guys feel out there. I know when I was at my last job, man, I got to that point where I was cracking. Says workers are down in the dumps about a lack of career growth opportunities and emptying offices as companies slash staffers to make way for AI, all while being put under constant pressure to do more with less. We had that same situation happening in my last corporate job where they just kept laying people off and piling more and more onto the people that were still there. And it got to be really rough, man. I tell you, stress is a weird thing. And you might not even realize you're stressed. I didn't until I left the job. But wow, it was really having an impact on me mentally. Says that the latest workplace phenomenon sees staff showing up and doing their job, but mentally and emotionally struggling. About 54% of employees report feeling unhappy at work, with frequency ranging from occasionally to constantly. And said, unlike quiet quitting, so quiet quitting is where people just do the bare minimum, collect their paycheck until they're ultimately laid off. Says, unlike quiet quitting, this decline in productivity from workers isn't intentional. Instead, it's caused by feeling worn down and underappreciated by their employees. But they feel unable to quit and protest because of the current job market. They're stuck. They feel stuck. Says that there are ways to combat this. A lot of people said it was their bosses that were making them feel that way. And I'll tell you, working, when you have a really bad boss, that can make life miserable in your job. I've had some great bosses. I've had some horrible bosses, and I can tell you it makes a big difference. Says that if you're an employer, if you've noticed an employee becoming more and more disengaged with their work, it may be best to schedule a time where you can discuss how they feel, setting them new tasks, providing new learning opportunities. Simply having an honest conversation could steer things back in the right direction. And I'll tell you, one of the things that's come up in some of our spaces recently is how AI could help this, actually, because as opposed to us being stuck doing these mundane tasks, AI could actually take some of that arduous shit off our plate and allow us to do meaningful work again. So we could see that in a positive light, but there's no doubt about it. People are burning out. They're feeling disenfranchised at work. Over half of employees. So certainly a trend we're seeing, man. And it is tough out there in those situations for sure. Many corporations are going to have return to work programs starting January 1st. It'll be interesting how it's handled. The return to work programs, in a lot of ways, in a lot of cases, are to get people to leave without having to lay them off. We're seeing that with a lot of companies. I have a lot of friends that are seeing that, where it's absolutely, a case where they don't want to lay people off and have to pay unemployment to them. So they just are forcing people back in the office and, letting people kind of quit on their own terms in that sense. So yeah, not surprising, man. It's a tough world out there right now for employees, man. And employers just have they have so many applications coming in, and a lot of them are using AI tools now to sift through those applications because they've just have an abundance of employees that are, applying for jobs. Crazy stuff, man. Let's do our Japan update. We got to keep talking about it because it is certainly a risk. And this guy's been on top of it, man. Highly recommend following him if you want to be. He is a little bit of like, he fuds like the markets, like end of world type stuff. But when it comes to the Japan stuff, he's on top of it. I said that there's been 2 Bank of Japan interventions today, bringing the total to 29 since the 29th of July, so in the last month. He said that it's to keep the 30-year bond down. But right now, it's kind of staying the same, even though they keep intervening in the sense that no one's buying Japan's debt. So the Bank of Japan's basically coming in and buying up their own debt. We are seeing a little bit of that with the U.S. right now. It's not good. But Japan 30-year just continues to climb, guys. It's just not helping. At least it's not. It would be climbing a lot more if they didn't step in. But this could be really bad for markets if they lose control. So how long can this go? I don't know. But I think at some point the music is going to stop here. Not to say we're going to have like a long-term crash, but I think it could crash markets like we saw last August and have a recovery. Let's just hope that happens next year. Let's don't ruin our party because things are lining up, guys. Things are lining up. Oh, we'll see. The other thing people have been talking about is the reverse repo. We talked about it last week. But this was basically the banks lend to each other overnight. The U.S. government kind of stepped in to pull liquidity out of markets after they printed all that money. At one point, those balances got all the way up to over $2.5 trillion. And while they've been still quantitative tightening, they have been pushing this liquidity into markets over the last couple of years, not calling it QE, even though kind of it is QE more or less. But they've run out of that lever now. We are almost near zero, down to 25 billion from where we were at over 2.5 trillion. So this is liquidity that they can no longer push into markets. What are they going to do? Well, the timing seems pretty perfect because I think most people are expecting rate cuts and probably an announcement of QE. In fact, Goldman Sachs is one of those companies. They came out recently, said they expect the Fed to cut rates 3 times this year. They said in a note on Monday, so today, expects the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates 3 times before the end of the year, citing a sharp slowdown in U.S. job growth. Yeah, well, we've been talking about that all year. The numbers are finally showing it. We suspect that weak job growth and concern about future downward revisions, we talk about that a lot too, which they're coming, guys, and downside risks have already convinced the Fed leadership to cut rates, resume rate cuts. Guys, I expect that July is going to be flat or maybe negative on job growth. September, they have the annual revision. It's not going to be great. So they forecast here 325 basis point cuts in September, October, December, and 2 more next year. So starting to look into next year, what we could expect. Keep in mind, in May, we're going to have a new Fed chair. Who's Trump going to put in there? Probably someone that is going to cut rates, if I were to guess. Whether that's good or bad for the U.S. dollar, I don't know. We'll see. Whenever Trump threatened to fire Jerome Powell, it didn't bode well for the U.S. dollar. So I think people, they think it's going to be all great, but I don't know that that's the case. It is good to have the Fed separate and not politicized. Some people argue that they have been politicized. I don't know. I'll let you make that determination for yourself. But here are the upcoming meetings, September, October, and December. Last year, we saw 4 cuts over the course of those 3 meetings. Could we see something similar? Well, Goldman Sachs thinks so. And Polymarket thinks that in September, we're sitting at 89% or 79%, sorry. It was a little bit higher last week. This, of course, we saw that huge jump up after those job revisions, and here we are now. This was when the job revision happened. This was after the Jackson Hole Summit. So you can you can take these macro events, you can really see where these shifts happen. This was when the CPI numbers, we were at 70%, or PPI came in, remember? And that all of a sudden pushed inflation expectations up again. And then we had the Jackson Hole Summit, and boom, there we are. So very likely we see a rate cut in September. And most people are expecting multiple rate cuts this year. So we'll see what happens. They do have betting odds open for October right now, over a 50% chance there. And of course, the concerns right now are the job market and consumer spending has been slowing. We talked on Friday about how McDonald's is lowering pricing. Like all these companies are seeing that consumer spending is really dropping off a cliff. What I found interesting, though, is that the odds of recession are hitting all-time lows for the year. It's sitting at just 11%. So even though things seem to be cracking under the surface, people are really not that concerned about a recession happening. We're up at 66% after the original tariff announcements back in April, man. 66%. That's how much fear was in the markets. If you bought that fear, good for you. As their great Warren Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful as others are greedy. And that was about the most fear we've seen in the markets in a long time. Certainly provided some really good buying opportunities if you're willing to take that risk when everyone else was as fearful as you could possibly be. But the big thing I'm looking at this week, guys, is NVIDIA, the most valuable company in the entire world at $4.4 trillion. Did hit over 4.5 trillion recently, but their earnings coming up this Wednesday, August 27th. What will that look like? Obviously, there's the smuggling ring of chips that were going to China that just got uncovered. We now have China that's telling their companies not to buy NVIDIA chips because there's tracking devices in them. Will that impact NVIDIA's earnings? Right? What are we going to see here? This is a big deal because it is the most valuable company in the entire world. If the earnings are good, that would be very bullish for markets. But if things disappoint and the market is surprised by that, we could see a big sell-off. So Wednesday is a really important day, and these NVIDIA earnings are going to be incredibly important. On my way home, I stopped by Taco Bell, a couple burritos and a couple tacos for $28. It is crazy, man. Like, you know, I'll hit up some Taco Bell every once in a while if I've been out with my buddies, you know, on like a weekend night. Got to get the cheesy gordita crunch though, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. A couple burritos and a couple tacos. That chicken quesadilla is not bad either. Anyway, what do you got? What's everybody's favorite thing from Taco Bell? I'm curious now. The cheesy gordita crunch is fire, man. It's so good. Let's talk about crypto. Bitcoin, guys, we did see this major run up. God, it was only a week and a half ago. And then things really recovered on Friday. We saw a nice surge up after Jackson Hole. And then we had this like coordinated sell-off, I think. There's some on-chain stuff showing that Binance again is selling off. But there's also this report of this Bitcoin whale that had been holding for like 7 years, still owns a lot, but sold $2.5 billion worth of Bitcoin and then moved it into Ethereum and staked it all. And this is an OG Bitcoin whale. So it makes you curious, like, wow, if they're moving into Ethereum, are we going to see alt season? Is the rotation taking place? Well, if you look at the Ethereum chart, I mean, we were up we've gotten new all-time highs. This is just yesterday. And we saw Ethereum almost hit $5,000, and then that got hit by that sharp sell-off as well. So, you know, it wasn't this Bitcoin whale that everyone keeps talking about isn't the only seller in Bitcoin that's causing that price drop, because Ethereum, even though they moved $2.5 billion into Ethereum, it still dropped. So I think we've just seen the coordinated sell-off after a big pump. And, you know, if you look at the metric that I think is the most important here, though, that is the Ethereum versus Bitcoin, because I think this gives us a good indication of what type of rotation we're seeing. In this case, over the course of the last 6 months, we've seen Ethereum over Bitcoin up 43.5%. So I think there's an absolute trend here that we're seeing liquidity move into alts away from Bitcoin. And Bitcoin market dominance now is below 60%. Now, for us to see like a really big alt season like we've seen back in 2021, Bitcoin dominance got below 40%. And I don't know, Tyler actually had a post about this with Unleashing DePIN recently. Adam Back responded too, who could be Satoshi. You never know. Could be Satoshi. He was saying that he doesn't ever expect Bitcoin dominance to drop below, then get to that 40% number again, essentially, is what he said. And he might be true there. Adam Back's a pretty smart guy. The one caveat I would say to that is the amount of stable coins that are going to be coming on chain over the next year or two. That could change that outlook a little bit, in my opinion. Of course, the stablecoin situation is going to be very different than it was in the past. I mean, in the past, you just move to stablecoins if you're wanting to buy alts. Now you're going to have stablecoins be a major financial rail of our system, not necessarily to invest in crypto, right? So I think we might need to look at that a little bit differently. But when you're looking at like your traditional altcoins versus Bitcoin and that dominance, I tend to agree. I think the Bitcoin dominance is going to be hard to move down to that 40% figure. That said, I don't think we necessarily have to have that happen for an alt season, because there's so much new capital entering the space. I think Bitcoin can keep a decent percentage of dominance. We could still see altcoins have their day. I don't know that we're going to see like the old altcoin season where everything just pumps at the same time. Okay, there's a lot more. There's so many more projects out there, a lot more dilution. But I do think that alts are going to move, and in particular, one, and I talked to Tyler about this a lot, is Solana, guys. Solana, to me, is the biggest opportunity in crypto at the moment. We've seen Ethereum run. I still think Ethereum can run from here. Don't get me wrong. I think it will. But I do believe Solana, as long as we don't see like a major global market crash like 2008, like something crazy, I do think we're going to see Solana hit new all-time highs by the end of this year. And I know that's a big statement because I looked at the prior all-time high. It's actually earlier this year in January. Solana hit almost $300. It got to about, I want to say $293. Year to date. Here we are. Well, showing 261 here. Let's just do a quick Google search here on this. Solana all-time high. Says that it reached approximately $295 on January 19th, 2025. Okay. So I think, and I know there's a big prediction because that would be a massive amount of capital. I mean, you look at Solana right now, market cap wise, sitting at $104 billion. Guys, that would be a big pump, but I think it's going to happen. Look at what we're seeing as far as the capital flows. Okay. For one, it's trending, but the capital flows is what I want to talk about in the amount of activity on the chain. So currently seeing 10 times more transactions than Base and 50 times more than Ethereum each day. When you look at the app revenue over the last 24 hours, it is higher than every other Ethereum or Layer 2s combined. When you have not just on the 30-day, not just on the last 24 hours, but over the last 30 days, revenue hit $211 million. You look at the amount of stable coins that have been added and minted on Circle on Solana this year, 25 billion. In the last week alone, we've seen 1 billion added. Look at this Blockworks. We look at stablecoin transfer volume, USDC, USDT, USDS. So this is all on Solana. Look at this freaking trend, guys. And it is actually insane. So we're seeing the apps being built on it. We're seeing the stablecoins coming onto it. And we're seeing the trends. Solana search terms hit the highest all time within the last week. You look at the mentions right now on socials. It seems to all be coming together. And then when you talk about the treasuries, one other, I'll point out, I hate Pump.Fun, but Pump Fun, out of all the launch pads right now, guys, it has retaken the lead and it's not even close. Not even close. Of course, on Solana, right? And you see DePIN seems to be the overwhelming choice for DePIN projects are being built on Solana. And then you have this huge announcement today. And this is what I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks, especially is the treasury companies and the amount of buying that's about to take place on Solana. In particular, as we have the spot ETFs get approved, which I think are going to be really in conjunction or follow shortly after the market structure bill. And Cynthia Lummis, I played this last week. She's expecting that to happen October, potentially closing in on November, sometime around Thanksgiving, and expects to have on the president's desk. So those are the two catalysts I'm looking at here, but we're already seeing the capital flows. We saw this with Ethereum back in June, May and June, before the stablecoin bill, which is the big catalyst for Ethereum, before that took place and was approved. We saw the money start to front run it. We're seeing it with Solana right now. Okay. And all the metrics are there to support that. So I think Q4 is going to be a big quarter for Solana and all their projects as well. I'll cover, but this was a big announcement, guys. The treasury plays are coming for Solana. We've seen it with ETH, but just today, Galaxy, Jump, and Multicoin Capital are seeking $1 billion to purchase Solana. Okay, they're looking to become the biggest Solana treasury company. Of course, the other two I want to talk about, and this is just massive, but we have DeFi Development Corp, which I've been covering a lot recently, DFDV. They announced today they're raising $125 million to accelerate their treasury growth. Speaking of them, guys, I bought the dip this morning. I don't know if anyone else did. I got in right at like 1575. I think that was right around the bottom here. Let's see here. What is that? Yeah, it got down to 1569. So I was very close, but I added to my positions down there this morning. And then UpXE is another one, obviously. They got Arthur Hayes join the group. This is another one I added to this morning. I think Tyler, my buddy, did too. I've got more orders in at, well, I put them in at 715. What did we get down to here? We got in I think we got down to 714, so 713 it looks like. So I have more orders in place down at 715. I don't know if we're gonna get there. My plan here, guys, because I think that this is such an obvious rotation in my opinion. Anytime we have these dips, especially on Monday mornings, I plan on adding and just DCA. Because there's a lot of people that, you look at August and September, historically, they have not performed well. There's still a lot of people that are calling for Bitcoin to drop below 100K. Nothing is like out of the realm of possibilities. When you have market makers manipulating markets, flushing out longs and leverage, it can happen. And I'll be ready for it when it happens. My goal again here is just over the next month to DCA, buy any big dips we see, continue to add to my positions, because I do believe that Q4 is going to be really good for Solana, guys. But it's not just Solana. I have my big five I talk about. Tyler said, I agree. Hell yeah, man. UpXE needs to step it up. Man, I think, Bob took position in UpXE as well. I've got a good position at UpXE, and I'm planning on adding more, but got a lot there, man. Got a lot there. My big five that I talk about, though, and I've been talking about this year, you got Ethereum, you got Solana, you got XRP, which I'll talk about more in a minute, and then Chainlink and Ondo are really the other two. And Chainlink continues to make massive announcements. This time, talking about SBI Group, this is a play for Asia and Japan. So it goes on to say that SBI added that its deal with Chainlink would see the firm use its flagship blockchain interoperability protocol for a host of use cases, including tokenizing RWAs and helping to facilitate foreign exchange and cross-border transactions. Guys, this is they have $200 billion in total assets, SBI Group. This is a huge freaking announcement. So Chainlink is one. They continue to make big announcements. They also did something with Ondo and JP Morgan. And you can see, we obviously had the big run up. It topped out right at the top of the market, right after we saw greed hit 90 back around last Thanksgiving. We saw the market exactly 3 weeks later top out. It was at $29 then, got all the way down after the tariff debacle to $10.90. It has seen quite a rally. But guys, Chainlink is going to be one of those cornerstone projects. They are making all of the huge Web 2 partnerships, and it's going to get just crazy usage. I think it's going to be one of the big cornerstones of crypto looking forward. I think looking back at these prices, people are like, man, should have bought more Chainlink. Should have bought more Chainlink. We've got Ripple. This is a big deal as well. And this is something that a rumor that emerged, I believe, earlier this morning about digital identity and global strategy. So there's a document that got leaked, apparently, said that there's a cooperation pact between Ripple, a major Swiss bank, and a U.S.-based blockchain firm. Goes beyond just cross-border settlement, hinting at a push into digital identity and compliance systems. What makes the leak notable is not just the reference to XRP as a neutral settlement asset, but the suggestion that biometric ID verification could be built directly into financial rails. If true, it signals Ripple's interest in weaving identity, tokenization, and compliance into a single network, and approach analysts say echo JP Morgan's recent claim that digital identity will form the backbone of Web 3. Holy shit. All right. It says earlier this year, let's cite some other major announcements. Earlier this year, Wellgistics Health began using XRP Ledger to process transactions across 6,500 pharmacies in the U.S., cutting costs and bypassing card networks. For all your friends, and I'm sure we still have all of them that are like, crypto's a scam. Okay. Okay. The rollout coincided with BlackRock's XDNA ETF launch and President Donald Trump's digital healthcare reform push, leading some observers to suspect deeper coordination. You think? Says that Ripple's been rapidly expanding in Africa and the Middle East via alliances with firms like Chipper Cash and Onafric, I guess is how you say that. Those regions are often seen as fertile ground for experimenting with ID-linked finance. It says that supporters argue Ripple is building the rails for a global settlement system, while critics warn of new risks around corporate control of personal identity. That's all I had on this. Yep. So XRP, guys, is making some major moves here. And I think this could shift things in a very meaningful way, and the way that we interact with blockchain. Tyler says, I would not trust Ripple for identity solutions. I kind of agree with you, but I'll tell you what I do trust is maybe buying some more XRP. I have some. I've been holding XRP for freaking forever, guys. Like, this is one of the ones I've been holding from like 2020. But just earlier this year, a year ago, last October, is sitting at 54 cents. 54 cents. Sitting at $2.91. Wow. That's quite a move. And that does bring me, though, to the next thing on XRP, which is what are the Treasury plays going to be? And the Treasuries are now on the scene. Okay, so Solana, rotation. What are the Treasury plays? And what are the MNAVs that are going to be the most attractive? Which ones are going to accumulate the most? Same with XRP. Says Vivo Power announced in late May what it describes as an XRP-focused crypto treasury and strategy alongside a $121 million private placement with intent to buy and hold XRP and build its internal DeFi capabilities. In July, Nature's Miracle Holding established an XRP treasury worth $20 million, funded by Registered Equity Facility. And then you've got, as of late August, at least 10 other XRP targeted treasury businesses and purchasing plans are already forming up quickly, with some calling for allocations as high as $500 million. Guys, I think this alpha of these treasury companies. I think we still have a play here, especially if you can look at where the next rotations are coming. Solana, XRP, to me, are pretty solid plays to be looking at. So I am going to be taking some time this week to look at which XRP Treasuries are the most promising. Obviously, you guys know on the Solana side, I got UpXC and DeFi Development Group. The other one, though, that we need to be keeping an eye on is Dogecoin. I know people hate Doge. I'm not a big Doge fan myself, but I will say there is some institutional interest here. You have the Elon ties still. You've got, Doge is not good. Number 8 project in all of crypto somehow. And there is a treasury play here. I've covered this quite a bit recently, but BitOrigin. So that's an interesting one. So another one on the dips. Do plan on getting more exposure to. It was not long ago, though. You look at where this thing came from. 17 cents 2 months ago. 2 months ago. Watch some videos from Invest Answers regarding XRP and what the cost per user is. So I struggle with the Dogecoin. Yeah, there are spot ETFs that are going to launch. For me, I'm looking at it more as, okay, if we see a rotation, we see Bitcoin dominance continue to drop, we see more money after the market structure bill coming into the space, I think Doge pumps. I'm looking at this as, okay, I can own the underlying asset, or I can look at the treasury play. And I think the market is going ballistic. We could see more multiples in the treasury play potentially, and that's what I'm trying to identify here. So I agree with you, Bob. I'm not looking to buy a spot Dogecoin ETF, although I think they'll get approved. I think they'll get approved this year. I'm more so looking at the treasury side of this and what could be the play there. Again, these treasury plays are not something I'm like planning on holding for long term. Okay. This is something that I think, right now, that's the thing that we're seeing, the trend that we're seeing. And I think that it's a way to get a better return potentially than the underlying asset itself. But it's something I'm looking at flipping. Okay. Playing it through Q4 into Q4 and taking plenty of profits. So hopefully that's how it plays out. We'll see. We shall see. That said, let's look at some DePIN stuff. Oof, man. Right on the day, right on the week, right on the month, right on the year. Well, one isn't. Geodnet's not on the year. How about that? These are pretty ugly numbers, guys. Not going to lie. We saw a major run up at the end of last year. Since then, it's just been pretty rough. Well, things were worse. Really, I think the third week of June is when things were, a lot of them have bottomed out. So we've seen some decent price action since then, but really things have not looked great. So the question is, when are things going to turn around? I believe personally that as we see kind of this August, September slump end, and we start to see the rotation into Solana, I think a lot of these projects built in Solana are going to start doing pretty well. We're seeing that DePIN's getting a lot of attention already. So pretty good overall, I think, outlook looking forward. But we've certainly been climbing those stairs in DePIN, guys. We have not been taking any elevators this year. Maybe down. We've been taking the elevator down. So happy for those who didn't subscribe to DIMO. Actually, you know what? That's worth bringing up today. We will bring that up. Rewards have increased a lot on DIMO because, well, their baseline issuance, there's less people that split up between. But before we get in there, let's talk about Mindshare, guys. So this is from Dylan over at Masari. Mindshare by sector right now, DePIN is leading the way on the week change, over 200% increase. How about that? How about that? Look at these people on DIMO. I'm seeing the rewards increase quite a bit. I still have plenty of cars connected. So I did see a nice bump in rewards this week. But Geodnet came out here talking about the Geo-Pulse Quest 2. This is a massive deal, guys. This is on the Seeker. They're going to have quests built into the Seeker phone. I found a clip from Horton talking about this recently. But the Geo-Pulse is also having new quests on their app as well. So you can go out and earn more. So I think between the Pulse having utility, but also, in my opinion, the Seeker phone, because it has RTK built in, that's going to be a really big deal for Geodnet as a whole, because it's going to increase the amount of token holders. It's going to make it a lot easier for them to get those exchange listings. Geonet price has been pretty ugly over the last week or so, man. It is down. Let's just look at the last week, 7 days. Not done that much, but it did go all the way up to 16 cents. Man, this project is just primed. I think once they get everything fully transitioned over to Solana and get some exchange listing, it should help quite a bit. Bob Seeker hasn't shipped yet. The heck, man. Depends on what you're using it for. I mean, if you're using it for connectivity with your phone, then yeah. But the one thing about the Geonet Pulse is that if you have other hardware that you want to connect to it to have better precision, you can do so. I'm not sure if that would work with the Seeker the same way or not. But if you were connecting your phone to the Geo-Pulse, then yeah, it probably is redundant because the RTK is built into the Seeker phone. So I would say yes in that scenario, probably. But you can earn tokens on both, so that would be pretty freaking cool. Let's talk about Helium. Look at those freaking DC burns. Nuts, man. It was after that change they put in. The price is just lagging behind so much, but it's just a matter of time. But I thought this was crazy. This you've got this installation set up in a airport. Look at the earnings this thing is getting, guys. Over the past 7 days, they got 1,300 tokens, H&T tokens. Like, what? That thing is freaking printing. Absolutely printing. And it goes to show, like, I was in a Reddit forum the other day, and I think it was over the weekend, actually. I saw someone talking about how H&T is dead. It's really funny. Like, when you get into some of these, like, Facebook groups and you get into some of these Reddit forums, people are very disconnected from what's actually happening in the projects. A lot of them are just looking at price. And you see these messages on there like, oh, Helium's dead. My IoT hotspot's only earning X amount of H&T. It's like, yeah, the project's not dead. You can earn if you're, incorporating the mobile side of things in a place that's getting a lot of usage, which really that's where the network needed to go. And we're finally seeing that. But, you look at what's happening these token burns, I think H&T is definitely due for a major resurgence. The question is, how high will it go? What do you guys? I'm curious. What do you guys think? Where do you guys think Helium can go price wise? I mean, it is sitting at a $465 million market cap, so you gotta keep that in mind. It's not like a low cap by any means, but can it get to $10 again? Can it get to $20 again? Just curious what you guys think. I mean, $10 would put it at roughly 1.8 billion market cap. It got to 4.7 in the last market cycle, and it had almost no revenue. So I don't know. I personally, I think that $20 is not out of the realm of possibilities for H&T. I don't know that we're gonna get up to, like, some people are calling for like $100 H&T. I think they're kind of out of their minds. But I do think we could see $20 again on H&T. Time frame, not sure, but it is something that on these types of dips, I've been adding to my position there just because the fundamentals are so strong. Wanted to call this out on the Arweave ecosystem. So number of daily transactions on Arweave is creeping upward while the daily volume is more or less staying the same. Means that AO is getting a ton of usage. So AO is the supercomputer built on Arweave. Arweave fundamentals are incredibly strong too. The permanent storage narrative, I think, is going to be massive. Actually, I was seeing that searches for Arweave and permanent storage on Google Trends are hitting all-time highs as well. And you look at Arweave's having a hell of a day today on the downside, not in a bad way. On the year, down 75%. But look on the day, down 10%, guys. These again, you saw it down below $6 recently. I mean, those are the times that I'm looking at DCA in to the project. But again, fundamentals incredibly strong. AO now sitting down at $10, so $38 million market cap. Again, fundamentals incredibly strong. So I'm looking at the metrics more so than the price. I'm looking at the price as potential opportunities to DCA. Let's talk about DIMO, actually. Let's bring up DIMO. Guys, so let's pull up the price first, and then I'll pull up the dashboard. So under 5 cents, sitting at $19 million market cap. I still, and I've said this time and time again, like I still think that DIMO as a long-term hold is a good play potentially. I think that the price of the token can do quite well. In the short term, I'm not positive. You got to think a lot of the people in the community are disenfranchised with the project because of the subscription model. A lot of people stake tokens that are super pissed off right now. You have to think once those tokens in stake, people are going to want to sell and get out and kind of cut bait with this project. So that's coming. Okay. There's still a lot of tokens that are staked right now. But when you look at, let's see here, can we see I'm not sure if this dashboard is going to show the amount of tokens that are, baseline issuance. Here you go. So the baseline issuance is on a schedule. Every year it drops 15%, I think in December. But it's the same amount of tokens that are going to go out every week. So what we're seeing right now is that people's rewards this week went up 2 to 2.5 times what they were prior. And that's because the subscriptions kicked in last week and a lot of people disconnected their vehicles. Here's your baseline issuance, and it's on a set schedule with a 15% decrease every year, and then eventually leveling out here. So what you're seeing is that the amount of, here you go, this is good. The amount of wallets getting issuance. Look at this drop off. Wow, that's a big drop. So at the peak, what were we at? 35,000 wallets receiving DIMO, and now we're at 7,800. Oh, you have to think like some of those wallets have a lot of different vehicles connected to them. So that's not like the amount of cars that have dropped off, but that is why we're seeing such a surge in rewards, because you have less people to split your rewards with on that weekly basis. So for people that stuck with it, if this project pivots successfully, I think they'll be pretty happy with that decision, because they're going to get a lot more, stacking a lot more tokens, and sitting at under a $20 million market cap. Like the math is not that hard for you to make sense of an upside case here, an upside scenario. You don't need that many vehicles to be connected to apps. Said you would think the rewards would have gone up more than about double. Yeah, it went up 2.5 times. So again, I think part of what we're seeing here is that a lot of these that dropped off probably had like one vehicle connected, and then people that have like company fleets or whatever have 30 plus vehicles connected probably continued to pay the subscription. So even though the number of wallets dropping off has been pretty big, pretty significant, like looks like about 3/4, you still probably have some of those wallets, some of those holders connected to a lot. Yeah, so it depends on what unit you have and when you purchase. So the AutoPies had, I think they had 2 years at the very beginning, maybe a year of connectivity built in. So as those come up on their annual period there, that's when they're going to drop off. When you look at the macarons, they had like 3 years built in. The R2s or the R1s rather, have 1 or 2 years built in. So you're going to have this cliff for, all these different models at different times hit. So if you're still getting tokens, that means that you haven't come up on your subscription period yet. So I still have a bunch that are still, collecting, but I'm not planning on I'm not planning on paying, because I with the ones I have out there, you gotta think. I had 250 autopies out there. You do the math there. I would prefer not. I already have a ton of DIMO tokens, so I'm like, I don't really want to pay a subscription for that many vehicles, right? Now it's different if I were like one vehicle or I had 4 vehicles in my family or something of that nature. Maybe it's a little different. But it's just like that's just a huge expense for me on a monthly basis that I'm not looking to incur. So that's my situation. I think most big fleet owners are kind of in the same sentiment there. Unless you have like a business where you're using the tools, then I think that makes sense. I'll make a little bit more with current rewards minus. Yeah. I wish, and maybe they will, I wish they had a way of having your subscription cost paid by part of your tokens, so you don't have to worry about, any outlay, but I don't know. We'll see what they do there. But they keep announcing big partnerships. I think they're going to have revenue coming through the door more than they do have already. So I think they can pivot. We'll see. The last thing, well, actually, you know what? Let's talk about the 5 projects that are having their token launches. So we got Exabits, number 1. These are my 5 that I'm most excited about. Exabits, to me, is the big play for GPUs. You guys know about Exabits. I talk about them freaking all the time. They're going to be a behemoth. You've got 375 AI. They have the EAT token is going to be launching in maybe later this quarter, but probably Q4. So obviously they're collecting data all over the country. They've got their phone app they're collecting data with as well. Incredible team. You've got Deep Network. They're launching on AVAX, but I do believe that they're going to probably have their launch in Q4, I would guess. You've got Popset Exports Discourse, it goes down. Yeah, man, it's crazy to me. I know some other projects that they're some behemoths that they're partnering with. I think they're being massively slept on, partly because they don't have hardware for you to buy and deploy. The other part, I think, is that they don't have a token yet, and people just people want to shill projects that have a token so that they can shill their own bags. So I think once they have a token, people will start talking about them. Once they have a personal benefit. I'm talking about all your KOLs or influencers, whatever the hell you want to call them. So Exabits again. So Exabits Deep. You've got 375 AI. Obviously, we've got Dabba. Let's look at their Explorer here. Over 7,000 now. Over 7,000 hotspots deployed. So that's climbing. That's great news. They have over 18,300 sold. So they're making moves. They're expected to have their token launch in Q4 as well. And then lastly, the third one is Wingbits. Partnered with Geodnet, built on Solana, tracking flights. So they're, I think, going to have a pretty solid token launch as well. Look at their metrics are getting better and better. So those are really the 5 I'm most excited about for Q4. And tomorrow, guys, we're bringing Flux on the DePIN connected space. So we're going to have Daniel Keller, the CEO, on. We're going to be talking about the moves that Flux has made recently towards decentralization. They've made some big moves with their protocol, but also we're going to talk about how we can push DePIN projects to be fully decentralized. So I think it's an important topic. So if you guys can, make sure to set your reminders for that session. Make sure to join, and it will be recorded in case you can't join live. And again, guys, for these live streams, I've been going back. I've been adding chapters, so you can jump around. You can go to whatever part you want. And I do have some videos I'm going to drop this week as well, some other stuff. So pretty exciting things all in all. I know we had a little bit of a dip, but guys, dips can be looked at as opportunities. Sometimes it also feels like you're just catching a falling knife. I get that too. So we will see if everything comes together the ways that we're hoping. With all that said, appreciate each and every one of you. I will be back tomorrow. I'm actually, guys, I'm going to be out of town. I'm traveling Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week. I might be getting on Friday later in the day for a session to catch up on anything we missed tomorrow and Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday. But appreciate y'all. Appreciate you, Bob. Make sure to retweet this live stream if you could on X as well. Peace. See y'all tomorrow.